You're listening to Who Would Have Thought, a motivational podcast that shares self-improvement strategies that will help you set goals, create action plans, and succeed.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Who Would Have Thought with your host Raman, that's me. On today's episode, we'll be talking about barriers that are stopping you from either achieving your goals or getting what you want, and some of the things that you could do to overcome these barriers. So although we might want to do a lot of things, there's a lot of things that come in our way that prevent us from doing, some of those things. So let's get right into it. Number one is the most common thing that stops us from doing what we want, which is procrastination. And, we all do it. It's inevitable. And I think it's impossible to not procrastinate in certain things. But, there are things that we shouldn't procrastinate on, and we should make sure that we're getting those done because they're critical for us to achieve our goals. So, when it comes to procrastination, one, it's important to know that you're recognizing that you are the person to blame for your procrastination. So procrastination is something that literally nobody is to blame apart from ourselves. We have to own up to it. We have to own up and be like, hey, I didn't do this task because I was lazy, or I just didn't feel like it. I wasn't in the mood, or I got distracted, or I got sidetracked. You need to be able to own up to yourself and be like, I am the person who's to blame. Because the minute that you start blaming your procrastination on other people and stuff like that, you're not gonna, get your way. It's always gonna be blaming it's so-and-so's fault, it's so-and-so's fault. So it's important to make sure that you're telling yourself, okay, the person holding you back right now is you. And the only person who can overcome that is you. So looking at yourself in the mirror and saying that and taking a look at it and being like, okay, I own up to it. This is my fault. And now okay, now that I know I'm procrastinating, let me see, why am I procrastinating? What's making me procrastinating? Is it every time I pick up my phone and I, get sidetracked into social media? Or is it, I'm going, around my house or my workplace or wherever it is, and I'm meeting people, I'm running into them, so I'm getting distracted? What is it that's causing you to procrastinate? Do you need to shut off your phone? Do you need to have some private time? Do you need to go to a library and sit down in silence and get your task done? What is it that's making you procrastinate, and how can you overcome it? So that's the first barrier that stops you from reaching your goal. And the second barrier is that negative voice in your head. We all have it. If you have only a positive voice in your head, that's amazing. Even for someone as super positive as me, I have a negative voice in my head. And that negative voice sometimes will be like, oh, that maybe this is a bad decision. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe, maybe I won't, maybe I won't achieve my goal. Maybe, I will fail and stuff like that. Whatever that negative voice is, and you know what the biggest negative voice in people's head I think is? It's thinking, oh, what will people think? Or what will people say? Will people support my business idea? Or will they think it's stupid? Or what will their opinions be? So you really have to look into that negative voice that's in your head and be like, why is that negative voice there? Is it a lack of motivation, or is it a lack of confidence that you have? Why are you not believing in yourself? Why do you think negatively about this? Do you not believe in your project? Or is it you believe in your project and you're scared that people won't believe in your project? What is it? So once you recognize what exactly that negative voice, negative voice have triggers, right? They come at specific times. They won't come at a random time or whatever. They'll come at specific times and they get triggered with specific actions or words or whatever the case is. So start to recognize, when is it that you're starting to get that negative voice in your head? Is it when you're working on your project? Is it when you're going for a walk? Is it when you're in the shower? What is it? When are you getting that negative voice? And again, is it motivation or is it confidence? Once you kind of see why you're getting that negative voice, you can also help yourself overcome that into a positive voice. One, for example, if it is motivation that you're lacking, then you know that you need to get motivated. Listen to the Get Motivated podcast. If you're lacking confidence and, you're worried about what people will think, well, that's a whole nother discussion about not worrying about what people think and, kind of following your own path and your own dreams and following your own goals and your own steps. So really have to start to recognize, like, why do I have this negative voice in my head? And the third thing is that might be a barrier is lack of resources. So sometimes you have the motivation, you have the confidence, you have everything kind of that you need to get started in your mindset, but you don't have the resources. And this could be something that is a real barrier. For some people, it's money. Sometimes you have a great idea, but it requires investment money and you don't have the money. Or sometimes some things require a space that you don't have. I had a friend once and she wanted to start baking, but she didn't have a proper kitchen space that she wanted to get started with the baking. So that was a barrier that, we had to look at what are your other alternatives? Where else can you do your baking and all that stuff? So is it, money, resources? Is it manpower? Is it something that you're not able to do alone and you need more help? What exactly is it? And sometimes it's a lack of resources and sometimes it's a lack of support. So is it family support that you're lacking? Is it friend support, your significant other? What is it that you're lacking in resources? And once you start to recognize, like, what are you lacking, then you can start to plan how to get those resources. So for example, if you're lacking investment money, and that's the barrier, like this, like, I could do this, I could make it happen, the only thing I need is the money for it, then that's when you could start, like, looking at your resources. Maybe I need to take a loan from the bank, maybe I need to get a line of credit, maybe I need to get a new credit card, maybe I need to ask a family member or a friend. And that's when once you recognize those barriers, you can start figuring out, like, what you can do to overcome those barriers. And number 4 is kind of a really big one, and this kind of goes into the number 2, the negative voice, is fear of failure. So this is a big one, right? It's it doesn't matter if you have the resources, the manpower, the everything that you need. You can have everything set up and ready to go, and that fear of failure will stop you from doing it all. There's a lot of what ifs. Let's just say, what if, what if, what if, what if, what if. The thing is, you will never know the outcome if you don't go through that what if moment. You will never know if you succeed or what will happen or what obstacles will come in your way if you have that fear of failure. I think when it comes to fear of failure, it's very, very, very important to understand that everything is a learning progress. Everything is a learning step. You will have obstacles. You should go into the new project or whatever it is that you're working on, that, I will have obstacles. I might have obstacles, but you know what's important? That knowing that I have to overcome these obstacles. So failure, if you're thinking about, okay, everything is going to work out dandy, all great, like, and the first thing goes wrong and you're like, oh my God, I failed. No, you didn't fail. It's just one obstacle. And some things have one obstacle and some things have 10 and some things have 20. And as, like, the famous quote goes, it's not how many times you fall, it's how many times you get back up. If you stop seeing things as failures and start seeing things as obstacles and learning opportunities and improvement opportunities, because think about it, if you don't have any sort of obstacle that you're overcoming, how are you growing? How are you learning? How are you improving your business or your plan or your goal? So make sure that you change your perspective about failure, and how you see failure, because the word itself, and it's just a word, it can have a lot more power over you than you let it. So I think I'll have a whole nother podcast on the fear of failure, because a lot of people do have that, and it's just something that it's just all in the sense of how you see it. And if you learn something from it, then it's not a failure. And the last but not least, I bet there are a lot more barriers that stop you from achieving your goals, but the last topic that we'll talk about is perfection. So a lot of people hold off on projects. They, take their time and they think, like, okay, well, it's not ready yet. It's, I need it to be perfect. I need these details ironed out and stuff like that. And basically, like, because things are not the way you want them to be, or they're not up to your expectations, you continue to delay that goal or that project or that task until it's perfect. And the problem is, when you're looking for perfection, it's never gonna be perfect enough for you. It's never gonna be good enough. You're always gonna find something else to fix, something else to improve, something else that you could do better. But understanding, just like kind of the last point, is that once you just start and something doesn't go right, you can change it. If you don't like the logo, you can change it. If you don't like the intro, you don't like the design, you don't like the plan, anything it is, you can change it. you are not held, to anything that you start off with. It's all about improvement. A lot of companies, the logos that they started with, when you think about it, just as an example, is not really the logo that they have now. A lot of the big corporations have improved their logo over time, and it's just about not saying the same. Over time, you improve things, you develop more, and you create your own version of perfection. And you don't need it to be perfect to start, but it's about building that perfection over time and improving it, and making it become what you've envisioned it to be, and also learning and improving it over time. So perfection is just one of those things that really does hold you back. If you start, when you're 60% ready, you're even like 40% ready, you're going to definitely be way ahead of the people who start when they're, I don't believe that you can be 100% ready. So let's just say even like 99% ready. It might be just you thinking that you're 99% ready. So, don't wait till it's perfect. Get started. There's a lot of barriers that are stopping you from doing what you want. And if you really want to do something and you feel like, okay, well, why am I not doing it? Then start looking at what are the barriers that are stopping you and how you can overcome those barriers. The first thing to do is recognize it and then take action to fix it. So I know you guys got this. None of us want to kind of delay our goals because time goes by whether you achieve your goals or not. And I know a lot of us, we want to make sure that we're out there, we're achieving our goals. So, recognize what's stopping you and go get it. Thank you for listening, everyone. I will leave the links to all my social media below, and we have an anonymous form that you can submit any questions, concerns, comments, or topics that you want me to talk about. So I will see you next time. Bye. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Please follow us on Instagram and YouTube at Who Would Have Thought Podcast. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please follow the link in the bio to our anonymous form. See you next time.